Hear me? What about now? Okay, wait. Wait. Hold on. How about now? Can you guys hear now? Yay! Sorry, guys. It's, we got like, what, 5 planets retrograde? Well, pre-shadow and post-shadow included. So, isn't that proof? Right there. How's everyone doing? Oh my. It's been like absolutely wild. And I thought I would get on and just kind of update really quickly. We're just moving out of that new moon in Cancer eclipse, and so it's been a little wild, been a little bit of time since we last connected. And I hope you're all doing well. Here we got quite a number of cycles and waves, so-called, that we're moving through. And so we're moving now towards the full moon in Capricorn, bringing to culmination matters related to Saturn. And Saturn is retrograde right now, so it's already right in the lesson plan, so already on the syllabus, the focus here in terms of how we're channeling that energy. So anyhow, how are you guys doing? It's been so intense. A lot of water energy here, right? Specifically Cancer. We've got not only the sun in Cancer, we've also got that new moon that we just moved through in Cancer at 0 degrees. So the new moon is already right that lowest sort of peak in the energy flow in the moon cycle. And at 0 degrees, we're really hitting that freaking raw nerve of how we really engage in that part of our sort of being. And Cancer, speaking of that inner child, first and foremost, how we hold that connection that is rather sacred, and questioning how we face it honestly with ourselves, right? So it's interesting because Cancer is actually the lowest point in the chart. And I know we're talking here about the full moon in Capricorn, but it sort of batons over, right, from one cycle to the next. And do we really say, well, this cycle ended and this other one began? It's all sort of fluid, right? So however, Cancer, interestingly, is, oh my goodness, that squirrel is on a mission. Reporting live. So, which way shall we? So Cancer is that lowest peak of energy flow, right? It's like in the actual astrology chart, it's considered the IC. So, they consider it as actually the most vulnerable part of the birth chart. So when we have that new moon hitting, right, that part of the astrology wheel, so-called the constellations and their orbit in the sky, for everyone in some way, it's bringing up that question of how we interact with that really vulnerable space. I have my South Node in Cancer, so, and it was also Neptune that went retrograde not too long ago, just about a week ago, I think, or so. And so we got a lot of questions surrounding how we interact with that space that we may not really, at the end of the day, be able to actually hold, taste, touch, feel when expected to sort of interact with it in a way that we can qualify or quantify. It's like, as I see it, the time where we're really interacting with a space that we may not understand, right? And we have, at a certain point, have to surrender to that, like to say, well, I am in human form. I realize that I may not be subject to this form that I take on, but in some way I realize that it's an aspect of how I interact in the dimension. So in some way, right, kind of identifying that sometimes our lowest points, they bring us to connect with how we feel. And feelings are not necessarily, right, to make sense, not necessarily are to further the agenda, let's say, of how we rationalize our reality, right? Like, we can think, well, I really want to do X, Y, Z, or I expect myself to make sense of this experience in this way. But at the end of the day, right, feelings are fluid. So acknowledging that space and how we interact in it, okay, not judging it necessarily, well, why did I react in that way? Emotions in astronomy can also be reactive, right? So, but moving from that space of so-called vulnerability, moving then into, depending on how you see it, Capricorn. So Capricorn is actually all about how we can take on leadership of how we construct our reality, which is interesting because then we're kind of shifting from Cancer, new moon, going the lowest peak of energy flow, and then kind of boomeranging it up into the full moon in Capricorn. So kind of hitting that scale, Capricorn being the ruler of the 10th house in the astrology wheel. Right, the most public part of the chart, actually, what we end up kind of cultivating and creating in ways that may be more physical, more tangible, more hands-on, in ways that can interact with the space of more so-called physically. So the inner child of Cancer and the sort of constructed composition of what we create as a so-called adult, Capricorn, we're kind of met with that middle ground, right, as we move into that space of what is the meaning of what we create, right? It's like, take the child and you sort of look at its timeline leading into adulthood. What do we call that life, right? So what is it that we live for? From the spectrum of feeling it to the spectrum of creating it. And these are really abstract questions, right? We don't necessarily, right, have to understand that process, and that's so difficult. At times it can be really challenging, like, especially if you are someone who has a lot of air in your chart, right, or a lot of earth, even fire. You might at times feel like you thrive in that space of working in a hands-on way with what it is that you feel you're creating. And when we're in these periods where there's so much at play, truly, especially with the retrogrades, right? Things are not necessarily as they seem, and we have to just kind of surrender to that and again, flow with that. So in those times, it may be really challenging to acknowledge that we don't have all the keys. We also don't know where all the doors are, right? And so we are in this cycle of seeing through maybe even the cycle itself. We call that thinking outside the box. So interesting times, right? In this space where time doesn't really exist. Oh boy. Uranus will be going retrograde as well, I think. Is it next month or coming up soon, nonetheless. But yeah, so again, it can be really at times like, but I just want to know, or I just want to feel, I just need some measure that this is like actually real or actually happening. And there is that challenge of grappling with also the why, right? Maybe sometimes we realize, well, I know that's true, but sometimes we kind of get into this mode of thinking about what it is that we know, what we feel, what we intuit. So a lot of different angles maybe that we're kind of perceiving the cycle through. But how are you guys doing? How is everyone? And isn't it so lovely out in nature here? I'm gonna read your comments really quickly. Yeah, it's a lot, Madeline. I mean, how many of you have a lot of Cancer in your chart? I mean, regardless, like, even if you don't have like a lot of Cancer in your chart or Capricorn, we're all comprised of all energies, right? And we're all here on Earth, holding the grid in a certain way at the same time. So we're all subject to the fluidity of the movement, so-called, and ascension. So it's a process. Wow, rosemary, so nice. So yeah, how are you guys? Hello, Cynthia. Hello, Vesna. Hello, everyone. Yeah, so don't be surprised, if so-called reality is disintegrating. In other words, it's a long-winded, winding road to the complicated, simple message that, we we may not actually also see ourselves clearly in this space. And sometimes it's like, okay, well, I may be experiencing whatever this is, like, contextually, but when I consider how I operate within it, then maybe sometimes it's like, but who am I in the space? What is it that I am sort of creating, carrying on? Sometimes may, be just kind of coming through, be questions that we want to answer, but we may feel kind of tension in the space of answering. And does it necessarily mean that there is not an answer, that there is? Sometimes, right, it's like, does our rational mind expect a so-called answer, but intuitively know there is no answer really to that? And the crux being, well, how do I connect my intellectual rational mind with my So I'm going to just read through the comments really quickly. And, this is another theme. A sort of question. Wow, there's rosemary all over here. It's so beautiful. And that's another thing, right? Grounding, really important. If at times you feel like confused, overwhelmed by what you're moving through, or that you feel that you're not moving through, depending on how you perceive it, right? When you feel like maybe you simultaneously are not moving through, then it might be helpful to ground. As the question might be the context, and sometimes it's like, well, I'm not necessarily, let's say, feeling that I'm shifting. It's more a matter of the space within which I'm operating that's changing, and the more, like, let's say, grounded and stable I'm able to hold the space as in that moment, the more seamless the transition will be. So I know that, for a number of you, there might be a lot of shifts that are unexpected, where you're like, where is this coming from? If that is the case, right, it may be helpful to connect to what I'm hearing the earth plane. I'm hearing resembles itself as. Wow, very interesting. Okay, so 1 second. Sees itself as. Wow. So, okay, interesting. I'm hearing templates. And I'm just focusing on nature here. Times when things get really complicated, it's helpful to just connect to plants, trees, grass, walking barefoot, connecting to things that I'm hearing manage time and space. So that's interesting. This is all related to Capricorn ultimately, right? The physical, material, tangible world, the actual physical earth, relating to timelines and things like that. So I'm going to read the comments real quick. How are you guys doing? Hello, Lala. Lala, I was looking for your comment earlier. I was like, I want to go back and reply to Lala's comment. And I was like trying to find it in the comment feed, and it was freaking nowhere to be found. I was like, oh, all right, I'll just go live. So thank you, Lala, for connecting. Good to feel you here. So let's see. Oh, Annabelle, it is your full moon, right? It's your moon sign, Capricorn. So you do have that full moon culmination here. Interesting. Is it buffering? Yeah, interesting medicine wheel, right? And yeah, there is like so much going on that can feel divisive as well at this time, where we're like, wow, never before felt so disconnected from everything and everyone and every concept that I felt like I ever knew. And so the thing that does ultimately connect us, right, is the earth grid in some kind of way, in addition to other planes. But if you feel yourself also feeling like, I feel disconnected, I feel like polarized in some way from my community, I'm hearing that as well. Things that were stable, things that I felt I could count on, then if those things are sort of, as you might feel, uprooted, perceptively in the way that we perceive to have connected to them, then it might be helpful to kind of scale down and with simplicity remind ourselves that there is rhythm and harmony in absolutely everything, right? Even chaos. The things that, we feel don't make sense. The things that are challenging, right? The storms that pass and the seasons and so on. They all kind of have a rhythm. So remembering that everything has its place. And I'm seeing for a number of you, I'm seeing around this time, well, I'm hearing specifically that I'm seeing it, that, and what does that mean? It was different for everyone. For someone to see, right, it might be the engagement of a different sort of interactive sense, but I'm feeling that I'm hearing we're facing really big challenges when it comes to the question of connecting with the concept of community, social groups, connecting socially, period. Which is interesting because, right, it might bring us more so, and it might have really been around this new moon that we bring this question forth of, well, how do I connect with myself in a social way? I'm hearing that specifically, that I then reflect outwards in my connections with others. So seeing the social paradigm possibly as reflective, which is not always easy, right? Especially if you're someone who has a lot of air in your chart, fires, especially Aquarius. Oh my. Alone time? What? I'm good. Where's the party at? Right? Of course, that is a so-called generalization. Always depend on your personal birth chart and all that. If somebody has a lot of Aquarius, but it's overlapping Scorpio, the house of Scorpio will be different than, another placement. And so many factors. And it's always a matter of how ultimately you channel it as well. But what a beautiful day. I'm hearing specifically as well that there is a focus on the concept of gratitude, values, what we value being what we perceive, what we pick up on, right? What is that concept, that theory, that notion that people often talk about? If no one were there in the forest to hear the tree fall, would it have actually happened? The falling of the tree, right? If no one was there to sort of acknowledge it. So, what is it that we feel maybe that we're really tuned into around this time as well? What do we feel like we're really, observing around this time might be a reflection of what it is that we're placing value on, right? So kind of the question of values and the shifting of that space maybe as well as a focus. So, yeah, but I'm seeing that there's a really strong focus on something of a feeling of complexity, where things feel complicated. Okay, it's like we have this doll and we've kind of like put all this clothing on it, and it's like now it's like super complicated. How are we gonna arrive to the party? Like there's so much going on in the way that we're also we feel that we are inviting ourselves to the space. So if you are facing some sort of major transformation, as you might feel it around this time, how is it that we're perceiving of the space, like building it up in our mind is something that we feel we need to even understand? And it's funny, I'm seeing there is transformation, and there is a sort of segue point that leads to the sort of foray into this new experience. And at what point do we feel like, oh my gosh, it's such a big deal. Oh my gosh, I feel like everything's changing. Oh my gosh, my world doesn't make sense anymore, right? And where do we sort of bypass that that ability to understand our reality in order to define it? Or do we just say, okay, well, I'm going to close my eyes and just acknowledge that I am an experience in and of itself? And where do I judge myself and saying, well, this was me, or this wasn't my reality, or it's no longer, right? Do I allow myself, do I permit myself to experience certain changes in ways that I reconnect with myself in a new way in relation to? So I think right now, yes, we're experiencing a lot of change in our environment, so-called socially, social systems are sort of completely, entirely collapsing. It's like, no light way, okay. But hey, right, if it is to collapse, what was it to begin with? Do we all remember the assembly video? All right. Interesting, the metaphors. But anyhow, sometimes, right, what we appear to feel, oh gosh, like society is like crumbling and whatever else, systems that we felt we could rely on is it really kind of this exploration of how we identify with ourselves as individuals, and how we then sort of acknowledge that we as individuals participate in a larger sort of communication with our higher self. So we're all connected, right? To everything, not just like human to human, but being to being, and everything here that is physical is inherently held in energetic form, right? Before it can manifest physically, it's a thought form, and then it takes on energy, sort of energy roots. That's what I'm hearing. Wow. And then it sort of, and then it feeds the thought that then grows from that seed of intention. So what is physical matter, really? So we are unraveling a lot of things here. It's funny, passing my mattress right there. We're unraveling a lot of things. It's scary at times, totally freaking scary, but look at simple things that reconnect you with not really understanding this paradigm at all and how it may change or not, right? So at what point, like if this, whatever the cycle is like freaking out, it's like, at what point do we feel that we acknowledge something definitive, and can then say, well, now that one thing that I was able to so-called define and like say was like real for sure is now changing, right? If we never really assign any definitive value to that whatever variable, would we ever be attached to the outcome of it? Like to say, well, this is a conditional space that I define my reality by. You know, where we say, well, I knew my reality because it was, you know, the space that I could understand, and then when it changes, so-called, then, right? So is it really changing? What is changing, if so? And it's funny, I'm passing by this like container box. It's portable storage, and it says rent me, I'm insulated. And it says cool box. It has like a really big ice cube on it. It's funny, and it just makes me think of like mobility, right? Being able to just sort of float in a transient state. Not saying that things don't matter, right? But kind of acknowledging that everything sort of matters, and setting our intention in that sort of direction that feeds and fuels our conscious sort of perspective, whatever that may mean, right, for anyone. It could be meant in a number of ways, taken a number of ways. But how it is that we kind of say, well, no matter what happens, so-called, right? Because what defines something as having happened from not yet having happened? But where is it that we say, well, whatever so-called like transpires, I'm not fixed in any one particular dimension of my experience here. So, you know, many of you are, as things associated with the archetype of light working, and, you know, how is it that we transition from that space in which we perceived ourselves to kind of hold the so-called light, you know, and what does that mean? Always subjective, but how is it that, right, these concepts are brought forth in different forms, right? Which can be really, at times, at the end of the day, we're in human form, kind of. So, let me get to your comments real quick. How are you guys doing? Hello, Ayoba. Hello, Fab5. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hi, Billy. Hello, everyone. And I just want to say that I appreciate all of you in every form. You know, we come to Earth and we acknowledge that nothing is really defined, right? We sort of approach life in such a way where we maybe kind of give things certain meanings, and to say that everything is related to the space of complete wholeness. Acknowledging that everything still holds value in a certain way. It can. Everything is meaningful, even things that are very challenging, right? How many times have you had an experience where you were like, wow, that totally broke me? And then you like turned from that and you realized that I wasn't really who I thought. That experience like even broke down, and then you sort of transcend from that space and you're like, oh my God, I'm so glad that happened. Because it brought me face to face with the sensation of having broken outside of who I thought I was. It made me realize that that wasn't even really me. Right? Like, can you really be broken? What is it in those moments where you feel like, wow, I'm like dissolving, but then you're like, wow. Confronted with so much of a bigger question, you know? Of like, who am I really? Right? Oh, thank you, Eve. So very kind. So very kind. Wow, Annabelle. Annabelle says, the most difficult things I've gone through, and they are more beautiful. Yeah. Totally. Period. Animal. Animal, take the mic. Totally. It's not always easy to surrender to that in the moment, you know? How many times are you like confronted with an experience? You're like, no, anything but. No. Are you kidding me? Break up? Are you kidding me? Get back together? Are you kidding me? Say sorry? Are you kidding me? Ask for redemption? Are you kidding me? Oh my God, what? Just coming through. I don't know. Take it as you will. Are you kidding me? Show up at that event? What? Never in a million. And then you like end up doing it and you're like, it's everything I ever wanted to do. Sometimes like we're silly humans. we can, right? Sort of, no judgment, right? But it just reminds me of the nice song, nice vibe. Reminds me of when my mom, she was like, one day she was like, hey Nat, do you want to go like, this was when I high school, middle school even, she was like, hey, what if you like did, you know, swimming or like water polo or something? And she like wanted me to just try it out right at the park. And I was like, well, I was really nervous. I'm gonna freaking be honest. I was freaking really nervous, and I like didn't want to do it. I was like literally running from the front door like, I don't want to do it. If I could dedicate a song to this moment right now, I would. And the climax of it would be that I don't want to do it. Like, it was like, if I could say, right, as like a statement, it was really daunting. It felt daunting. It felt uncomfortable. And I thought I was like, I just don't want to do it. And then I kind of looked at, we ended up going to the park. We went into the sort of arena where they were like, all the team was swimming. And I look into the pool and I see the team, and I'm like, it's like at that crossroads moment where I'm like it was my decision. My mom is like, look, I'm not going to force you, right? Like, it's up to you, but like, you want to do it, or, you know, it's all right. Like, we'll move on. And I was like looking at the pool, and I was like looking back at the door, and I was really nervous, like, I kid you not, like really, really nervous. For whatever reason, number of reasons. And I was like, at first I was like, no, like, I had made my so-called mind up. My rational mind was like, Natalie, like, listen, the answer to the question is very simple, and it's no. Just tell your mom that, okay? So I was like, Mom, I don't want to do it. And then I kind of like turned back to the pool. Like my mind like turned my head. My heart kind of like turned my body back. And I was like looking at the pool like, fine. I was like, okay. I'll just like try. So it was a moment of conflict where I was like really conflicted in that moment, right? My mind, my heart, kind of like intuitively I was like, well, maybe it would be cool, and maybe it would be something new, and I just don't know the experience. Wow, I'm looking at, check it out, Venus right there. That it's also a globe right there next to Venus. It looks like a flower beneath that, and that reminds me of Uranus, the globe, specifically I thought of Uranus. But yeah, and I was like, I couldn't like not acknowledge that I was curious, that I like wanted to check it out, to try it on some dimension or another. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it. My mind was like, what? What? You made your mind up. What happened? So lo and behold, I ended up playing water polo for like 5 years. I was like really, really passionate about swimming and the sport, all through my high school years. It was, really an amazing experience that cannot be underestimated. And it was something that I felt I derived so much from, an experience that you can't really replace with another, in many ways. So indispensable. And it's moments like that where it's like, well, I neither understand necessarily why I wouldn't want to do it, and I neither understand why I would want to do it, why I feel magnetized toward it in some way. I just kind of took that so-called risk and ended up loving it, right? Not to say that it was always easy. Okay, there were experiences. Stories. Stories. That will tell a few others. Stories that lead to stories. It was interesting. It was an experience. So, how many of you have a lot of water in your chart? I'm curious. Hello, Dana. 2020 is a tremendous period, right? I think it's like really confronting us with the question of what does it mean to be a human? What does Earth mean to us, so-called humans, as the inhabitants of this land? What does it mean to be a human on Earth? How do we, or in Earth, or as Earth, for Earth? However you see it, right? How do we observe this dimension altogether? And that's the beauty, I think, of those, retrogrades that we're moving through, because it really, like, brings us to that so-called halt. Like, we're in that, safari caravan from the Sag reading. Specifically, what a series of readings. I'm gonna undercut that. So like 14 that we reached, 14 readings for Sagittarius. So many signs on the channel. They're like, what is with all of the Sagittarius energy? Why does Sagittarius get like 14 readings? We like don't have any for like a week already now. What's going on? Okay, I'm gonna check out Sagittarius. Let me just I'm kind of curious. So many people, they were like, I'm curious. I want to see like what's up with the Saggy thing. I wonder how many people like converted to Sagittarianism out of that. Dang, it's cool to be a Sag. It's cool to honor the part of your chart that is Sag. that is represented by Sag. So we all have Sagittarius somewhere, right? So absolutely. Of course, we all have a Jupiter as well. If you have Jupiter, for example, just a side note, at let's say 29 degrees or an advanced, so-called advanced degree, you would likely have you would really resonate with the archetype of Sagittarius, even Pisces, Jupiter ruling both Pisces and Sag. But yeah, how many of you have a lot of water though in your chart? Oh, we were saying a lot of retrogrades, right? So this almost like we're in this sort of like caravan and we're on this like so-called safari and we're like really taking a look at Earth right now, right? We're like, what's really happening here? Oh my God, I have to just show you how beautiful. Can you guys like see this? Hold on, I gotta flip it. Wow, that is like way too zoomed. Hold on. That's such a beautiful color. So earthy. Anyhow, so I think that's one of my favorite colors. That earthy sort of beigey, very grounding. It always depends though, on your mood and vibe and all that. But anyhow, so it's kind of like, yeah, we're on this like safari caravan ride and like we're all on the freaking tour of Earth right now and like we're slowing down. We're freaking slowing down the caravan cart to take a really close look at what is happening here, and sometimes it's freaky, right? We're really seeing things that it's like, wow, is that like freaking happening? Like, that's for real? Like, oh my. But that's sort of, Dana says, like, what a wonderful time to be on Earth at this time. And I think it's a huge feat, honestly, to bring ourselves to this point, to acknowledge that there is this parallelism of this, you can say, like, polarity, the space of disconnection from this plane, and also connection to it more so than ever at this point, right? With ascension and I think this came through actually. Yes, I wanted to mention this actually. This came through in a Pisces reading recently, where it was talking about how I remember this so clearly. It was like Pisces, like you're ascending. Like it was so specific, so clear. Like the vibration is raising, and you're seeing things very clearly. Okay. Along with that, though, does come at times, ironically so-called enough, confusion, polarity, but by way of seeing how things are so clear in relation to how they may have been operating a space that was so not to say wrong, okay, by way of being different, but complementary. So we're like seeing things in different ways, sort of what I'm feeling. And so, but we all engage in this change in our own ways, right? Hello, must have faith. Hello, must have faith. Hello, everyone. Hello. Yes. So, all right, Annabelle. Catch you later. So good to feel you here. I'm gonna just read the comments real quickly. Billy D says, this eclipse is opposite my ascendant, 12 degrees of Cancer, and conjunct my sun, 11 degrees of Capricorn. Wow. Wow. Quite the cycle. Is my south node in Cancer. My north node is in Capricorn, so it's interesting. On that axis, right? On that axis of transition. Oh, are you north node Sag? Must have faith? How many of you find it challenging to ground? How many of you feel like this is a routine thing where you're like, at times you feel that it's really hard to stabilize the energy space? Hello, Jessica. Love and light to you. Oh, hello, Latasha Ford. Right. Oh, really, Jesse? Mm-hmm. You guys have a lot of water in your chart? Or a lot of air? Hi, Jocelyn. Hello, hello. Oh, really, Billy? Billy says it's been hard for me. So like something recent? Oh, wow, Latasha. Aquarius moon. Yeah. Yeah. Very active in the cerebral space. Right. Same can be for Mars in an air sign. Right. Rusty tools, David Chow? Why is that? Oh, you have your Mars in Cancer, must have it? Yeah. How many of you feel that alone time is really pivotal to your ability to ground? Not a right answer, right? Of course, everyone has their own sort of, but how many of you find that, Jesus, is really important to be alone, right? Because there can be a lot of stimulation around you, even on levels where you're like in a freaking silent room and you're like, there's freaking noise. I freaking feel it. Everyone's quiet. I can freaking hear their thoughts. I can feel their energy, space. And it's like talking to me. And, you know, how many of you find that it's sometimes more of an aggressive feat to connect with your higher self, so-called, in that moment where you're engaging and interacting? Because, you know, it's interesting, so-called humans, right? We're social. It's like, well, we're meant to be social, right? Going back to that same kind of concept of, you know, social systems sort of reconfiguring around this time, reconstructing. Going back to the question of, you know, well, it's just as much how I socialize with all aspects of my being, right? Feeling that I can do that, right, without being judged, you know, where it's like alone time is okay, right? Not considered something like odd. How is it that that space then actually feeds in a way that is helpful, ultimately, the so-called social dimension? And we can communicate without communicating. We can, right, interact. Right? That's not necessarily without, to say that someone's alone doesn't mean that they're not, you know, social also. But anyhow. Side note, side note, side note. Hey, Amber. Hey, Amber. Got a first little song coming through. Amber Pamper. So, Madeline. Okay, so Madeline says, for example, she says, what do they say? I need people. Right? So, how is it that you find the time, right? Acknowledging that you feel this connection to people in a certain way. How do you find the time to connect with yourself? What are the ways in which you find that it is actually easy to connect with yourself in spite of that? Because I'm sure that a lot of people, right, they find this period very challenging. They're like, I'm not able to do so-called the things that I used to do, and I'm not able to connect with also myself in the way that I used to connect with myself. So, you know, this is something that I think, of course, is natural and just changing of itself. You know, you maybe have had a routine for how many years, and that ends up kind of changing in some way, and there is an adaptation period, so-called, right? It's natural. But for somebody who, let's say, acknowledges that they are like, they really rely on social interaction in some way where they feel like they did, or that they do, they feel like it feeds them, how is it that, you know, you find ways to connect with yourself in an empowering way that feeds you, that nourishes you, in a way that then maybe circles back and connects back to the way that you connect to others? Just curious. And we're walking, singing, dancing, just walking around, check out the cactus, lonesome cactus. Listen, when zoomed in, the cactus looks alone. Okay, but when we zoom out, we see all kinds of foliage in the environment. And sometimes we feel alone, sometimes maybe at times we see only a certain aspect as well of a situation, and then we zoom out, right? We're able to acknowledge that, well, you know what? It's not that I was like so-called, I'm hearing this from a number of you also, like necessarily abandoned in that experience, right? So how many of you are working on some abandonment so-called around this time? Wouldn't be a huge surprise, right? Cancer ruling the inner child, upbringing, things like that, roots, home. You guys, it was so good to connect with you. It was some time that we had, right? It is, right, Cheryl? Lovely, lovely. Good weather here. Sunshine. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Samantha. A lot. Very much so. A lot of retrogrades. Yeah. Reviewing. What are your favorite ways, whoever has, like, let's say something in mind in relation to this, what are your favorite ways to ground? If you don't mind commenting or writing it here in the chat, it may be helpful for others as well, because everyone will have their ways, and maybe something that helps you ground might help another ground, right? So you guys, thank you so much for connecting. It was really lovely. And hopefully we'll be back with some readings. I'll be posting the rest of those readings that have been kind of coming up during the last few days. Last 2 days or so. It's the July through November readings for 2020, so-called. And so feel free to tune in. If you're not getting notified of new readings and you want to get notified, just ensure that the blue bell icon is highlighted. That way you will get notified when the videos go live, in addition to right when videos are posted. So hopefully I'll be posting some new videos, and I'll see you soon as well, hopefully for some more readings. We'll see how things move, but hopefully the new moon in Capricorn, right? We've got that coming up tomorrow, so I'll go with the flow. You guys, so lovely to connect with you here. And remember to ground during these times as well, if you feel that things kind of feel overwhelming, right? There's so many ways that we interact in this space, in this dimension, right? Sometimes we can sort of overexert a certain perspective at times, not to say that that's like wrong, but sometimes we get really into the thinking mode or really into the feeling mode, and everything, right, is a matter of balance ultimately. So just if you're feeling something really strongly at certain times, know that you can also end up finding that you're able to think about it in a different way at a later point in time, which then brings greater light as well to maybe what you were feeling about it, right, at that prior point of vantage is what I'm hearing. So, you know, try to be gentle with yourself around this time, and remember that everyone is experiencing in some shape or form this cycle. So thank you for connecting, you guys. Love and light to you, and stay tuned for some more new videos coming up. The rest of the series here. I think Capricorn is left, so tune in the horde for Capricorn last but not least. Capricorn July through November, hopefully. We'll be posting that soon. I think it's Capricorn and maybe another reading that I have yet to post. So it's really funny, you guys, the way also these readings have been recorded. Literally, like, they got like cut off, some of them at like 53 seconds. So I think for Capricorn, I have like the first video is like, I think 13 minutes or something, and then it's got this like 53-second segment at the end. So when you see that part 2, just know that it got cut off and I didn't want to leave it out. So I'll post those hopefully soon yet again, and keep an eye out for that. All right, love and light to you guys. Bye.